Okay, in this video, we finish our operations on radicals instruction by finishing with dividing radicals. Okay, so you can see by our general example that you start off with the square root of one number divided by the square root of another number. So the first thing you want to do is you look at those two numbers and you decide if you can simplify that fraction. Maybe both numbers are divisible by 3 or 2 or anything, okay? So in that case, you turn the two little roots into one great big root. Simplify the fraction, and then once it's simplified, go back to leaving it as two separate roots. So what does that look like? Well, let's take a look at this one. We've got the square root of 10 divided by the square root of 6. And we make a determination, oh, we can simplify those two numbers. They have a common factor of 2. So I've rewritten the two little radicals as one great big radical, went ahead and simplified it, and then kept it as two small radicals again. Let's do another one. Hey, let's try another one. How about the square root of 15 divided by the square root of 6? Okay, well, I'm looking at these two numbers. They too share a common factor of 3. So that means I'm going to rewrite as one big radical, 15 divided by 6. I'm going to reduce the fraction. So 3 goes into 15 5 times. 3 goes into 6 twice. Okay, and then I'm going to down here rewrite it as two smaller roots again. Okay, let's do one more. When you have a situation where you have fractions that cannot be, sorry about that, when you have fractions that don't need to be simplified, then you don't have to go through the step where you rewrite as as one big fraction. For example, the square root of 3 divided by the square root of 2 is already in simplest form. So there's nothing that we can do. There's no reason to rewrite it as one big fraction. But there is one more important part of dividing roots, radicals. And that is this. In math, we agreed as a mathematicians community many, many years ago that we do not leave a radical in the denominator of a fraction. And there's a funny story to that I will tell in class, but I don't want to take the time to do it now as to the reason why that is. But we don't do it. So this is the procedure for how to get rid of a radical in the denominator of a fraction. Say, for example, we have the square root of 3 again, divided by root 2. Well, we want to get rid of that root 2 in the denominator. So we have to multiply this root by itself, okay? But we can't just multiply the bottom by root 2 because that would change the value of the expression. We have to multiply by what we call a fancy form of 1. Very similar to what you do when you are trying to get a common denominator when you're adding 2/3 plus 5/2, right? So you have to multiply this fraction by 2/2 and this fraction by 3/3. It's the same exact thing. This is a form of 1. This is a fancy form of 1. It doesn't change the value. Well, you can do the same thing with radicals. So let's try this. So when you multiply a radical by itself, it undoes the radical, okay? But we can even do it longhand to prove it to you. This root 2 times root 2 is the same as root 2 times 2, right? Which is the same as root 4. Oops. 4, which is the same thing as 2, right? So that's what's going to happen in the denominator of this fraction. So let's go ahead and accept that when you multiply a root by itself, you're just going to get the number back, okay? So we're just going to get 2 on the bottom. On the top, we're going to do the same thing, right? Root 3 times 2, which is going to give us root 6. And this would be our final answer. One more thing to add when we're rationalizing the denominator. Say, for example, we had a situation where we had a coefficient of one of those radicals. We had a rational number being multiplied along with the radical. Like, say, for example, root 5 divided by 3 root 3, okay? So you might think, oh, I have to multiply all of this. No, you only have to multiply the radical part, okay? So I can leave the 3 alone. I can multiply this radical by root 3 over root 3, okay? And not worry about the other 3. Just leave it alone. And so what will that give me? That'll give me the square root of 15 on the top, and it'll give me 3 times 3 on the bottom, which finishes to 9. So like I said, young people, it's okay to be slightly confused when you get to the end of this process, okay? The idea is that this is the beginning. We're going to practice and practice and practice. Please feel free to go back over this video, watch it as many times as you need to, and we will continue to work with these numbers until everybody gets it in class. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.